I think a lot of people who end up being a fan of sound money in general, right? They basically look at the macro system today and they say, hey, we're printing a bunch of money, whether it's Bitcoin or gold, you're going to see those things increase in US dollar value, right? We're devaluing the dollar, and obviously those things are going to increase in value. There's people in the gold community that say, oh, the solution to this is to go back to a gold standard, right? I tend to think, unlikely that will happen, although I understand the argument. What's more likely is that every fiat currency in the world just digitizes. So you get a digital dollar, digital euro, digital yen, won, all the way through. And then you basically don't have competition at the technology layer, because now whether it's Bitcoin, it's a private currency like Libra, it's a digital dollar, it's all digitized. And where the competition plays out is at the monetary policy level. Is that in line? I know that you've done a bunch of work on the digital dollar and the blockchain caucus and kind of all of that work, but just how are you guys thinking about digital dollar, Bitcoin, Libra, and kind of where that competition plays out?
Well, so two things. First, you talked about devaluing the dollar. I'm going to suggest to you that there may be people here in Washington right now that really think they can play with this funny money all the way through the end of the year, and they can continue to print trillions of dollars, because they'll say two things. One, well, we'll just devalue the dollar. And when you complain about it, you know what their answer is? Yeah, but our exports, I mean, people will buy a lot more stuff. That's not the answer, Pomp. That's not monetary policy. That's greed. That's just, and that's also just kicking the can down the road for tomorrow. But the digital dollar, first off, I don't like the idea of every country, and that's what we're looking at. I mean, I can tell you that the bankers that I work with, good guys, one of my colleagues has really done some work since we got here on getting up to speed on this cryptocurrency area and what it means. And he's a traditional banker, and he did not start with that view. But I don't think he'd go where I want to go. And where I want to go is, you're not going to get competition if you turn it over to the government. You're going to get what they see in China, okay? Because remember, Pomp, somebody has to be in control. I'd prefer that if we're doing if we're working in cryptocurrency, you're in control of your wallet, I'm in control of my wallet, and you and I are doing the exchange between us. Because I don't need Big Brother, one, watching what we're doing. Two, I don't need, and I know this whole bit about know your customer, and that's just gone way overboard. You can become a prisoner of your own safety and security, and that is what we've done. We just keep putting up these, we got more people to come in, and it's like, we have to do this because, you know what, Pomp is going to, the Chinese are going to do this to them, or they're going to steal whatever, or this terrorist group. No, I don't think so. I just don't see it. And while there is a place for it, again, you can probably tell, I tend to not, my view, by the way, I'm in the minority at this point. I'm in the minority.
What would it take for a single state? So we saw the state of Ohio, for example, the treasurer's office said, hey, we're going to accept Bitcoin for taxes. When that treasurer transitioned out, it basically was reversed almost immediately, right? And,
yeah.
and I joked with Josh Mandel, who's the treasurer who did it. I said it was like a one-man show who got something through, and then the second he walked out of the room, everyone rearranged the room back to how it was before. What would it take in your state or another state to really kind of adopt some of this stuff as a second currency? Is that something that has to have buy-in across kind of everywhere from the local all the way up to the state? Is that a state, top-down thing? Like, how does that work?
Oh, I think it's going to have to come from the bottom up. And it's actually both ways, right? And I'm just looking, because we've got a bill that we did on state licensing. I think it starts with stuff like that. It might seem not very sexy, right? But wait a second. If the federal government creates a one-size-fits-all when you're dealing with the exchange of crypto, and you now don't have to get a money transmitting license in every single state, and then they start micromanaging, because you got people in those offices that don't know what's going on. So you create that type of stuff, one, will allow it will take away the 50 state patchwork, right, in the district. That will help. But then you're going to have pressure from the bottom, and the pressure from the bottom, we've got talent, right, and we've got capital that will both leave this country. They will go find a place for this to work. The dollar or the Bitcoin will always follow the path of least resistance. So if we want to be behind the 8 ball, which we already are in some cases, we can continue to let this go. The second thing is, once you start doing money transmitter license bills, once you have Brian Brooks, what he did last week by allowing banks to actually bank the take custody of crypto assets, what he did there, that signal really gets the ball rolling. Now, we got a problem with maybe the Secretary of the Treasury, maybe, a former SEC advisor or secretary, whatever you call them, chairman. But you got a lot of people, and it's growing on the inside of these institutions. And that's why Brian Brooks, I met with him a few weeks ago and just so grateful that they put him there, right? But it has to pick up momentum, because here's the other thing. And you work with the people in this area a lot more than I do. I get to meet them. They're interesting. I mean, I love the ones that go out and start a trading platform that's worth millions, and they never graduated from USC. But guess what? USC invites them back because they want to give them an honorary degree and have them talk to their students that are paying an exorbitant amount for a worthless education much of the time. It's that old, how much do you spend for your college education? $250,000. And what's your daughter doing? Welcome to Arby's. Can I take your order? But I think once it starts to roll and you get the pressure, here's the other thing. I'll leave it with this. You got really smart young people in this area. They're going to figure out a way to get around the rules. This is where I've said this in other places. This is where the Roman Empire went, when the citizens didn't know and didn't care for years that the government had actually fallen. I mean, think about it. Was it Spain just a couple years ago? They didn't have a government for over a year, and their economy was actually improving. That's a head scratcher. Not really. So it's people that you're interviewing all the time. It's people that you're intersecting and interacting with. They're going to figure out how to do this, and government can actually help facilitate it, and then make sure, where, and I think the community is the best to help us with this, where we need to lean in, right? Where there are dangers, where there are bad guys, where there are, the thing that bothers me the most, and sorry, it just triggered me when I said bad guys. It seemed at the beginning like all of my colleagues, Democrat and Republican alike, every time you mentioned Bitcoin or crypto, all they heard was Silk Road. And that's why bringing up Twitter, I'm very grateful of, because they did it again, right? It wasn't Bitcoin that caused the problem. It was Twitter. And it's like every time there's this, and maybe it's because of the name. Maybe crypto just gives it a bad, ooh, there's something bad going on there. It's cryptic.